My name is Patrick, and when my wife's friends convinced her to leave home for a week just to teach me a lesson, I did the last thing she expected. I had seen how her friends influenced her for some time, and I'd warned her more than once about the kind of advice they gave. It never seemed to bring anything positive into our marriage. She didn't take me seriously. So when she packed her bags and left, thinking it would somehow shake me, I didn't react the way she or her friends thought I would. Instead, I made a decision she never anticipated. Looking back, everything started off so calmly. Maria and I had been married for 7 years, but our relationship went back even further. We'd dated for 3 years before tying the knot, much of it long distance. We made the best of it, visiting whenever possible, staying in touch constantly, texting, calling. Despite what people say about long-distance relationships being hard, ours never felt like a struggle. In fact, the time apart made being together feel even more special. We thought that if we could survive the distance, we could get through anything. But we didn't realize that love alone doesn't prepare you for the day-to-day reality of sharing a life. Every little habit, every shift in mood, every bit of space. After we got married, that reality hit hard. It was the first time we were truly living together, and suddenly, we were navigating shared space all the time, sleeping in the same bed, brushing our teeth in the same bathroom, cooking in the same kitchen. I had lived alone for years before this, and I had my own rhythm, my own way of doing things. Now, I had to make space for someone else in everything I did. It wasn't bad, it just took getting used to. It required a mental adjustment. Even with the growing pains, I was happy. I believed in our love. She loved me too. I truly believed that. She even moved cities to be with me after we got married. That meant starting over for her, new surroundings, no friends, no job yet. We would spend evenings together combing through job listings. I'd send her links, she'd apply. Eventually, she landed a customer service role at a local bank, and she was thrilled. She got comfortable in her position quickly, and naturally, she made some new friends at work. I was glad. I wanted her to have her own life here, not just be someone's wife, but a full person with her own connections and independence. At the time, our marriage felt strong, mutual support, love, shared dreams. We had also agreed early on that we didn't want to rush into parenthood. That conversation was easy for us. We were ambitious and wanted to grow our careers first, enjoy our time together, save up, and settle into life. And for a while, that plan worked. Maria thrived at work, and after a few years, she was promoted to lead the customer service team at her branch. To celebrate her promotion, I booked dinner at her favorite restaurant. Over the course of the evening, between dinner and dessert, I gently brought up something I'd been thinking about. I said maybe it was time to start talking about having a child. She smiled, but then she shifted the conversation to her promotion and suggested we just enjoy the evening. I didn't press it. It was her night. But what I assumed was a one-time brush-off became a pattern. Every time I raised the subject, whether in casual conversation or while planning for the future, she'd dismiss it or shut it down. She kept saying it wasn't the right time. At first, I assumed work stress or just not feeling ready, but as time passed, her responses became colder, her tone more firm. It no longer felt like not now. It felt like never. That was the first real crack in our relationship, though I didn't fully recognize it then. One Tuesday, I got home earlier than usual and didn't tell Maria I was coming back early. When I walked in, she was in the living room with 2 friends. I didn't recognize one, but the other had been over before. They were laughing and talking, and I greeted them politely before heading to the bedroom. I didn't mean to listen in, but the walls weren't thick, and they weren't being quiet. At first, I tried to tune it out, but the things I heard shocked me. One of them was proudly talking about cutting ties with her second ex-husband and how free she felt. The other casually admitted she was seeing a married man, laughing as she explained that his wife knew and couldn't do anything about it. She even said it was meant to be. It wasn't just light talk. It was toxic, full of resentment, pride in brokenness, and a strange kind of celebration in making destructive choices. When they left, I waited a bit and then spoke to Maria. I was calm. I told her what I overheard made me uncomfortable. I tried to explain that people who take pride in broken relationships or affairs probably weren't the best sources for relationship advice. But instead of understanding, she got angry. She accused me of spying, said I had no right to judge her friends, and claimed I was crossing a line. She wouldn't even let me finish. That's when I realized just how deep their influence had gotten. From then on, I watched her change. Every time she spent time with those women, she'd come home different. Quieter at first, like she was waiting for me to do something wrong, then suddenly accusatory, picking fights out of thin air. At one point, she told me I wasn't leading like a real man should. That comment didn't come from her. It came from somewhere else, somewhere outside of us. And that's where the unraveling began. She had never said those things before, not even hinted at them. It was as if someone had handed her a list of complaints she was suddenly supposed to have. I tried to stay calm, not jump to conclusions. But then one evening she came home late, and the strong smell of alcohol hit me the moment she walked through the door. That wasn't like her. She was never the kind to go out drinking, especially not during the week. I had a feeling it came from those new friends of hers, the ones who glorified reckless behavior like it was some kind of badge of honor. I approached her carefully, asked, "Hey, are you okay? This doesn't seem like you." But instead of opening up, she lashed out. She accused me of trying to control her, of being intimidated by her independence, of wanting to confine her. Then she said something that left me speechless. She accused me of wanting to ruin her body by pushing for a child, said I wanted to trap her in motherhood while I got to stay free. I stood there, stunned. And then she just turned and walked away. Things only got worse after that. We still lived under the same roof, but it felt like we were miles apart. She'd leave in the morning without saying a word, come home and go straight to the bedroom. If I tried to talk, I'd get cold, one-word replies, or nothing at all. It felt like I had become an annoyance in my own home. I tried to give her space, hoping it was temporary. But as days went by, the silence became our new reality. The warmth that once filled our home had vanished, replaced by an unspoken tension and the growing feeling that I was being quietly pushed away. One early morning, before the sun had even come up, I found her in the hallway, zipping up a small travel bag. There had been no mention of a trip, no heads up. I asked her where she was going. She didn't look at me at first, just kept folding clothes into the bag. Then she finally said she was going to stay with a friend for a while. Said our marriage wasn't working the way it should, and that we needed space to figure things out. I was confused. Sure, things had been rough lately, but I hadn't imagined it would come to this. I tried to reason with her. I told her every couple goes through tough times. That we didn't need distance, we needed to talk. I even suggested therapy, something we'd never tried before. I was willing to do the work. She wasn't. She shook her head and insisted that time apart was the only way forward. Just 1 week, she said. I didn't know what else to do. I felt powerless. This wasn't a shouting match or a dramatic fight. It was quiet. Cold. The kind of thing that sinks in slowly but leaves a deeper bruise. After she left, I couldn't pretend everything was normal. I called in sick to work, told my boss I needed a couple of days. I spent those days in a fog, replaying every moment, every argument, every signal I had brushed aside. And I began to see a pattern. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was someone who had already checked out. I may have still loved her, but I couldn't ignore what she had shown me. If she could walk away that easily, and not fight for us even when I was willing to, then maybe there was nothing left to save. That night, I opened my laptop and started looking for a divorce lawyer. It felt surreal. Divorce had never been part of the plan. I believed we'd be the kind of couple who figured things out, grew old together. But sometimes, love isn't enough, especially when it's met with neglect and manipulation. I found a lawyer with solid reviews and scheduled an appointment. That first meeting was brutally honest. He explained the process, the legal side of it, the emotional strain. I gave him the green light to proceed. On the 5th day of her absence, she received the divorce papers. Within hours, she messaged me, said I was bluffing, claimed I was using this to manipulate her into coming back. I read the message and just stared at it for a while. Then I replied, simple and direct, I'm not bluffing. This marriage is over. I didn't owe any more explanations. I had spent enough time trying to hold something together that was already falling apart. That evening, I came home from work, completely drained, and there she was, standing in the living room. Our eyes met, and she rushed toward me like she was relieved I was still coming home. Her voice shook. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it," she said. I didn't respond at first. She kept talking, asking me to withdraw the papers, saying we could still fix things if I'd just give it time. But something inside me had already gone quiet. I looked at her and said, "When you walked out, that was the last straw. This marriage is done." I walked past her. She didn't follow right away. But later that night, she found me in the backyard, just sitting and thinking. She sat down next to me, not angry, not defensive. Calm. Softly, she admitted that her friends had told her to leave, to disappear for a week. Said they told her I'd cave and stop talking about wanting a child. I couldn't help but laugh. It was sad, really, that she'd listen to advice like that. I told her, "Well, now you're free. Go be with your friends. Maybe they'll help you through the divorce, too." She broke down, grabbed my hand, begged me to reconsider. She said she didn't want to be like them, divorced, bitter, alone. That this wasn't how she imagined things ending. But my mind was made up. I told her, "If you're willing to hurt your husband just to impress people who couldn't even hold their own marriages together, then you don't deserve to be in one either." She kept trying, calling, texting, showing up unexpectedly. But I didn't budge. Not out of hate, but because I'd finally realized that love doesn't mean accepting disrespect over and over again, especially when the other person doesn't even see a problem with their behavior. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. Everything was divided. It was official. I won't lie and say I'm thrilled with how it ended. This isn't the future I imagined when we said our vows. No one walks into a marriage thinking it'll end because your spouse listened to toxic advice from bitter people. But even with all the sadness, there was a strange kind of peace in knowing it was over. I no longer had to come home to tension, to someone who treated me like a burden, to a person who let others think for her. I didn't have to wake up wondering which version of her I'd be facing that day, the woman I married, or the stranger those friends helped her become. And if you're going through something like this, if you're in the middle of a situation that feels eerily similar, let me tell you, you're not overreacting. You're not asking for too much. Relationships are meant for two people, not a crowd of outside voices cheering for failure. If someone allows outsiders to poison the bond you've built, they are the ones breaking the trust. And when they show you that their loyalty lies elsewhere, believe them, and choose your peace.